Good day, and welcome to the Hitting the Reset Button, Creating a New Normal conference call, hosted by the National Resource for the Healthy Marriage and Families. Today's conference is being recorded. At this time, I'll turn the conference over to Brianna Carroll. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Hello, and I want to welcome you all to Hitting the Reset Button, Creating a New Normal. I just want to start off by reminding everyone to turn on your computer speakers to make sure you can hear the presentation. We have muted all participants. However, if you would like to communicate with us, please feel free to use the Q&A pod at the bottom right-hand side of your screen to ask us any questions. We will be answering as many questions as we can at the end of our webinar during our Q&A session. Also on the right-hand side of your screen, you will be able to see the downloadable resources, which includes a list of resources referenced throughout this webinar, and also the full speaker bios. Above that, you'll be able to see the web links that will directly navigate you from the Adobe platform to those web links that are referenced in the webinar. And then as a reminder, these resources as well as the PowerPoint and transcript will be available on our website at www.healthymarriageandfamilies.org within a couple of weeks. So to kick us off, I'm going to open a poll just to kind of assess who's on the call and also to get you used to polling, which we will have a few throughout the webinar. So if you can just take a couple seconds to answer this. The question is, I joined today's webinar as, and then you can see the different options. And if you are in the other category, please feel free to answer in the Q&A pod so we can see that. Awesome. See people still answering. Looks like almost about half or so is a provider focused on human resources, but it looks like we have a good mix of everyone here. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining. I will wait another second or two. Awesome. Today's agenda includes opening remarks, a welcome and overview of the Resource Center, and then modern-day family challenges and strategies to overcome them. And then at the end of the webinar, we will conclude with a discussion and Q&A session. Our first speaker this afternoon will be Millicent Crawford, who will be delivering some opening remarks. Ms. Crawford is a Family Assistance Program Specialist with the Healthy Marriage and Responsible Fatherhood Program at the Administration for Children and Families Office of Family Assistance. Ms. Crawford has worked in human services her whole career, which includes positions in family and child social work, family violence prevention, and human trafficking. Ms. Crawford has her master's in clinical psychology and is currently pursuing a master's in marriage and family therapy. Next, we will hear a welcome and overview of the National Resource Center for Healthy Marriage and Families from Robyn Cenizal. Ms. Cenizal is the Director of Family Strengthening with ICF, and since its inception in 2011 has served as the Project Director for the Resource Center. Ms. Cenizal has over 26 years of work in family strengthening, child welfare, workforce development, violence prevention, and poverty reduction. Ms. Cenizal is a certified family life educator and integrative nutrition health coach. And our final speaker today is Dr. Alicia Hardman, who will discuss modern-day family challenges and strategies to overcome them. Dr. Hardman is an assistant professor in the School of Human Sciences at Mississippi State University, where she is a state extension specialist in family life and evaluation. Dr. Hardman teaches courses on human development and family sciences. She also is an instructor for both adult and youth mental health first aid. She delivers and evaluates family life education programs. Dr. Hardman also trains students, parents, and professionals about the impact of trauma on children and their families and equipping these populations with skills to respond in a trauma-informed manner. Dr. Hardman has her master's in family studies and human services, her doctorate in curriculum and instruction, and is also a certified family life educator. So let's get started, and I will turn it over to Millicent for opening remarks.
Hello, everyone. Like Brianna said, my name is Millicent Crawford. I am a Family Assistance Program Specialist with the Office of Family Assistance, the Healthy Marriage Responsible Fatherhood Program. And I just wanted to personally welcome you and send regards from the Office of Family Assistance. And thank you for taking time out to participate in this webinar, hitting the reset button, creating a new normal. OFA recognizes the multitude of stressors you may be experiencing, your clients may be experiencing with the spikes and the plateaus of this worldwide pandemic, and then with the civil unrest brought about the inhumanity of racial injustices that we all see playing on video all around us. So it's only natural that we would want to press the rewind button to go back to days before COVID-19, before the stay-at-home orders, before you watched these videos. But unfortunately, no such button exists. So through the cooperative agreement that OFA has with the National Resource Center on Healthy Marriage and Families, we gave you this webinar. And this webinar is going to discuss healthy ways to move forward that really do exist. So again, I just want to thank you for letting us be a part of your day, and I'm confident that you're going to find useful and valuable insights from this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Millicent. Thanks for joining us today. And thank you all for taking time, as Millicent said, out of your day to join us for this important conversation. I am Robyn Cenizal, the project director, as mentioned, and I'm excited about the opportunity for us to talk a little bit about what's going on in the world today and what do we really want our new normal to look like. Many of us are dealing with all kinds of things in our current lives that are different. I hear all kinds of examples. For example, folks who are used to commuting an hour to work in the morning and an hour home are now, what are they doing with that 2 hours? So there's lots of really interesting things that have been happening. And as we start to think about what's going to be next, I thought it would be a great opportunity for us to discuss the topic and for me to share with you some resources that are free. Everything that the Resource Center does is free and research-based, and we're a multifaceted kind of project. We do a lot of outreach. We have the web-based resources, which I'm going to talk a little bit about. But just before we get started on that, let's take another poll question. Tell me what's been going on in your household. During this pandemic, have you been working from home? Have you been unemployed? Have you had kids at home in virtual school? Or maybe had a partner who's also working from home at the same time you are? Wow, so looks interesting. Looks like the majority of you, over 90%, have been working from home. A handful are unemployed, and lots of you, over 25%, have had kids home doing virtual school, and over 30% with partner home working at the same time. Thank you. That's very interesting, and lots of challenges go along with that, I'm sure. So let's talk a little bit about the Resource Center and the resources that we offer. If you visit the website at www.healthymarriageandfamilies.org, you're going to find all kind of cool stuff. The media gallery has videos as well as podcasts. We have all of our webinars are archived, and we've had over 30 webinars so far, so they're all archived along with our monthly e-newsletter. We have a calendar of events, although I will say it's a little light these days since so many events have been canceled under the current pandemic. And then there's the resource library, over 3,000 research-based resources, all free. The virtual training center, we have 8 different courses. Again, they're all free, and you can log in, set up a profile, and go in and out as much as you like and complete those courses. We also have a monthly newsletter that highlights tips, resources, and upcoming events. If you haven't signed up for our newsletter, you can do that on the website. We are also on LinkedIn and on Instagram and Twitter. So if you're on any of those platforms, I hope that you will follow us and share our information. It's a nice way for us to be shooting out some little interesting tips. We've done our first Instagram Live recently, and that seemed to go well, and we plan to do more of those. So I hope you'll connect with us through those. I mentioned that we have some multimedia resources. Some of the cool new stuff that we've released is our Relationship 101 podcast series. And each of these podcasts, they're less than 15 minutes each, and it'll tell you what the time is when you look at the information. But they focus on common relationship dilemmas and offer advice and information on healthy ways to navigate those dilemmas. For example, navigating finances. How do couples manage to navigate either merging finances or not merging finances? The honeymoon's over is another one that's really interesting, where we talk about kind of the phenomenon where there's so much focus on the wedding that once the honeymoon is over, it's kind of like anticlimactic. So like what's next? We also have podcasts on talking with youth about finances and helping young people learn how to manage money, and resources, podcasts on dating over 50 and the challenges that go along with that, as well as you see here, our Dating IRL video series, which offers fun videos with dating tips for young people who apparently don't date as much as they hook up based on research. So again, these resources are for you to use, or if you are in a program that serves families, feel free to use these resources in the work that you do with other families. And now's a really great time to focus on how we can strengthen families in our own relationships, because as we've just discussed a few minutes ago, many of you are working from home with kids there and partners there, and things can get a little bit tense sometimes. Our Strengthen Your Relationships section on the website offers resources relating to communication. How you communicate is as important as what you're communicating, and thinking about conflict management. How do you handle those issues in a healthy way? We also have a section on family crisis, which includes some hotline numbers in case your family is actually in a crisis, so that you can reach out and get the help that you need. We have resources on parenting and financial management, and these special collections, if you will, are organized to make it easy for you to go directly to what would be beneficial to you and your family. We also have a special collection focused on healthy dating leads to healthy marriages. Research shows that how young people start out dating determines what their long-term relationships could look like, and so it's important that they have access to healthy information. We also have our children's activity book. It's a really cool little activity book, and you can download the booklet or you can print off one page at a time. And it's a great tool for use with little people, say ages 7 to 10, to have an opportunity where you can discuss healthy relationship skills and share ideas in kind of a non-threatening way. One of the activity pages asks them to describe their family. It's a great way for you to get insight into how they see the family, which can be a great conversation starter to make sure that you understand kind of how they see things, because often we have a perception of how children are doing that may not be grounded in reality. So great tool for starting those conversations. So I want to share some of these tools with you before we get into Alicia's presentation, where she's going to give you some really concrete ideas on what are we going to do next. You know, when everything opens back up, do we really want to go back to the chaos and the overscheduling? What are some of the things that we've been doing at home that we want to keep doing? Maybe it's family dinners, cooking together, spending family time, doing different things. Maybe it's getting out, exercising, and so forth. You know, maybe some of us are even hesitant to get back out there into the world. So let's take this next poll question and kind of get a sense of where everybody is. How comfortable are you with the way your community is reopening? How do you feel? Are you fine? You're ready to get back out there? Hesitant, but hopeful things will be okay? Nervous that we're moving too fast? How are you feeling about the reopening? So, Brianna, let's pull out that poll question. All right, we'll give it just another minute or so. All right, so this is pretty interesting. So it looks like there's actually, over a third of us are a little bit nervous that things are moving too fast. But the majority of us, almost 50%, feel hesitant but hopeful that things will be okay. And then there's about 17% that are just ready to go. It's interesting as we're watching the reopenings around the country, and in some places things are opening up pretty fast and they're seeing some challenges. In other places it doesn't seem to be as big of an issue. So it's certainly a community-by-community conversation. And what all of that is going to look like, I think, differs individually. For some of us, even if we are hesitant but things are opening up and we feel like things might be okay, maybe we aren't going to jump back out there the way that we did before. So with that, I'm going to turn you over to Alicia, and she's going to talk us through some strategies to overcome some of those modern-day challenges that we're facing. Thank you, and I'll be back after to facilitate a conversation with questions and answers, and we look forward to you typing your questions in the Q&A box so we can respond to them later. Thanks, Alicia.
Thanks so much, Robyn. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, I'm Alicia Hardman, and it's my pleasure to be here with you this afternoon. As Robyn was saying, this pandemic has caused a lot of stress, and we've talked a lot about the hardships it's caused, but I think there are also some benefits that we're seeing that are coming out of this pandemic. So what I want to talk about this afternoon is some of the modern family challenges that I'm sure most of us are very familiar with, either in our personal families or the families that we work with, as well as some strategies, and again, many of which have become more common during the shelter-at-home experience that we've faced during the pandemic, that we can use to overcome them. So let's begin by identifying some of the modern challenges to family life. Now, this is not an exhaustive list, but rather highlights some of the most significant challenges that families are facing today. The first significant challenge that most contemporary families are experiencing is time pressure. So with many dual earner and single parent families, balancing work and family life is increasingly challenging. A second challenge for families, which also contributes to the time pressure that families are facing, is a pressure to provide children with enrichment activities. In her book, Unequal Childhoods, sociologist Annette LaRue coined the term concerted cultivation to explain the logic of this very distinctive middle-class parenting pattern through which parents intentionally structure their children's daily lives by, for example, enrolling them in extracurricular activities. And this style of parenting involves deliberate cultivation of child's development and is marked by parents' attempts to foster their child's talents by incorporating organized activities into their children's lives. Following LaRue's qualitative work, studies using large-scale data have shown that middle-class American parents tend to enroll children in a variety of activities, including sports, music, and various clubs. A third challenge that contemporary families face is that the media landscape has changed drastically. Unlike older media technology, such as radio and TV, new digital technology is accessible nearly everywhere. As such, media is pervasive and invasive. Media is pervasive, meaning that it has spread globally and throughout the population, and invasive, meaning that it has spread prolifically and has tended to intrude on people's thoughts and privacy. And then a fourth challenge for families is both the perception as well as the reality for some families that children are unsafe outdoors without supervision. In part, this may reflect the local environment, as about 94% of parents have expressed safety concerns about outdoor play, and access may be limited as only about 20% of homes are located within half a mile of a park. Now, these modern challenges have led to a number of problems for children and families. The first is overscheduled and overcommitted children and families. The trend toward overscheduling children is a way to keep kids supervised while families are juggling work schedules. The most important study documenting this change was conducted in the late, or was published in the early 2000s, conducted in the late 1990s, and was an analysis of 2 waves of data that were collected from American families with children aged 3 to 12 years old. Data were collected in 1981 and again in 1997, and was based on time diaries that were completed by parents. This study found that children became far busier during the last 2 decades of the 20th century, and that families spent less time together. Specifically, the report showed that there were several changes to children's time over that period of time. So one is that free time declined by 12 hours per week. Children's study time increased by almost 50%. Family meal times declined by 1 hour per week, and structured sports time doubled to over 5 hours per week. Now, while this research is somewhat old, I suspect that these findings have stood the test of time and still are very reflective of contemporary families. Another problem that's been caused is that children and families are constantly plugged in. In 1970, children began to regularly watch TV at 4 years of age, whereas today, children begin interacting with digital media at 4 months of age. In fact, the average U.S. child is now plugged in to some kind of digital device, not including a cell phone, 7.5 hours a day. And young people now spend more time with media than they do in school. In fact, this is now the leading activity for children and teenagers other than sleeping. It's important to recognize, though, that technology is not just a concern for children and teens. Family scholars have coined the term technoference to refer to the interruptions in interpersonal communication that's caused by attention paid to personal technological devices. Research is showing that technoference is an issue across family relationships and contexts. For instance, research has shown that technology interferes with parent-child relationships as well as couple relationships. Yet another problem is that today we have play-deprived children. From 1981 to 1997, again, that same study found that children's playtime decreased by 25%, which is the equivalent to playtime decreasing by about 3 hours per week. And in that same time, unstructured outdoor activities fell by 50%, numbers which I suspect have decreased even further in the over 2 decades since this study was conducted. And then finally, unsafe neighborhoods and playgrounds have led to what is referred to as nature deficit disorder for many children. This phrase was coined in the book Last Child in the Woods, in which the argument is made that all of us, but especially children, are spending more time indoors, which makes us feel alienated from nature, and perhaps more vulnerable to negative moods or reduced attention span. Similarly, in a recently published book, Lost Connections, research is presented which documents how 7 types of disconnection are causing anxiety and depression. One of these types of disconnection is from the natural world. So it seems that evidence is mounting to support the notion that increasing amount of time that we are spending indoors and decreasing the amount of time that we spend outdoors is leading to problems for both children and for adults. The good news is that there are some solutions to these modern-day challenges in family life. According to Denise Pope, a senior lecturer at Stanford, there are 3 factors that protect kids against a host of negative outcomes and strengthen resilience. The first solution she talks about is playtime. Keeping kids busy with supervised activities is to the detriment of what we know kids need for healthy development, which is free, unstructured playtime. It's important that we reframe and recognize that play is children's work, and it's critical to their healthy development. The second solution is downtime. Extracurriculars such as sports, which adults often perceive as downtime for children, can generate a lot of pressure. So just as adults need downtime to recharge, so do children. It's important that we recognize that downtime is essential for all of us. And the third solution she proposed is family time. Family time is considered a protective factor in the research. And it's important that we prioritize family time, which can be any activity in which the whole family is spending time together. That might be playing, family game night, or eating family meals together.
Now, I'll submit to you that there are 5 strategies that families can use to reset family life that will allow them to increase playtime, downtime, and family time. I'm going to briefly describe each of these here, and then I'm going to outline the research that documents the benefits of incorporating each of these strategies to improve outcomes for children and families. The first strategy is ensuring that children have the opportunity to engage in free, unstructured play. This kind of play is self-directed, which is crucial for children's exploration of the world and understanding of their own preferences and interests. The important thing to keep in mind is that play is not frivolous. It is brain building. Creating space and time for unstructured free play can enhance playtime as well as family time when siblings play with one another and when parents join in with their children and play with them. The second strategy is promoting outdoor play and activities. The outdoor environment provides for different play opportunities that cannot be replicated indoors. Outdoors can be described as an open and constantly changing environment where it is possible to experience freedom, boisterous movements, and contact with natural elements. Outdoor play and activities are just as beneficial for adults as they are for children. So creating more time for outdoor activities may help to bolster playtime, downtime, as it can be really relaxing for adults to take a walk outdoors, and it may also increase family time when families are sharing in activities outdoors. The third strategy is for families to develop a family media use plan. Media is not inherently evil, as it can be used to connect, learn, and create instead of simply consumed. However, research has also shown that it can be disruptive to family life. The American Academy of Pediatrics has developed a family media use plan that allows families to make informed decisions and set limits for their family. It is important to recognize that the plan is not just for children and teens, but also includes setting limitations and rules for parents to follow as well. It's important that we remember that we need to model the behavior we desire and are often as in need of setting limits around technology as our children are. Developing a family media use plan can help families ensure that they are prioritizing and allowing for an adequate amount of playtime, downtime, and family time. The fourth strategy is for families to prioritize family meals. The average family meal lasts barely 20 minutes, but there are few other settings in family life that have such potential to influence children's behavior and development. There is no critical number of family meal times that seem to be essential for healthy outcomes. However, several reports seem to suggest that 4 or 5 shared meals a week is optimal. Research also indicates that it is not so much the family meal that is important as it is what happens at the family meal. Therefore, it's important to use family mealtime as an opportunity to have pleasant conversations. Strive to create a family mealtime climate that provides everyone with an opportunity to talk and to be heard, and is characterized by laughter and fun. And it's important that we avoid arguments, nagging, and complaining during family meals and save those tough conversations for another time. When we follow these strategies, family meals are a good way to increase family time. The fifth and final strategy that we'll talk about is shared reading. There's no shortage of research documenting the beneficial outcomes from shared reading. Within the shared reading context, both adult and child are jointly focused on the text, following along with the narrative storyline and exploring the illustrations. So we know that shared reading can promote downtime, as it can be relaxing, and it can also promote family time, again, when reading is shared. Let's talk about each of these strategies and what research tells us about the strategy and how it's beneficial to children and families. Research demonstrates that developmentally appropriate play with parents and peers is a singular opportunity to promote skills that build executive function and pro-social brain. The benefits of play are extensive and well documented and include some of the following. First, as I just mentioned, executive functioning is a core benefit of play. Research has shown that free, unstructured play leads to improved self-regulation and self-control, better problem solving, and enhanced mental flexibility. Second, opportunities for peer engagement through play cultivate the ability to develop social-emotional skills. Peer play usually involves problem solving about the rules of the game, which requires negotiation and cooperation. Third, there are many health benefits of play involving physical activity. Exercise not only promotes healthy weight and cardiovascular fitness, but outdoor playtime has also been associated with decreased BMI. Play also decreases stress, fatigue, depressive symptoms, and increases a range of motion ability, coordination, balance, and flexibility. Fourth, play also develops cognitive skills. Play and learning are inextricably linked for children. As I said earlier, play is children's work. So free, unstructured play fosters language development in children. It also fosters their curiosity and imagination, all of which can lead to improved educational attainment. Now, it also warrants mentioning that there are benefits to adults of playing with children as well. Through play, parents often are able to learn to see the world through their child's perspective, and that makes it easier for them to communicate with their children. In terms of outdoor play and activities, so in addition to providing children with more time to engage in free, unstructured play, we also want to increase the opportunity for children and families to engage in outdoor play and activities. Contact with natural elements such as sunlight, sticks, rocks, flowers, soil, and water are a unique stimulus that capture children's attention and interest. Natural elements are open-ended materials that can respond to children's imagination and needs. Being in contact with nature builds an emotional connection to the environment, and there can also be academic benefits as the outdoor environment provides learning opportunities in which science and math concepts are promoted. Research has also shown that interaction with natural elements promotes contact with harmless microbes that help to build a strong immune system. Outdoor play provides children with an important low-stakes situation in which to experience risky play. Risky play promotes important skills related to persistence, entrepreneurship, self-knowledge, and problem-solving. If we try to prevent all risky situations, children will not know how to deal with unpredictable environments and will lack the necessary confidence to overcome challenges in an autonomous way. And then finally, outdoor play also provides unique socialization opportunities. The crucial difference about socialization in the outdoor environment is that opportunities for interaction occur in a more gradual way, giving children the possibility to choose moments in which they want to connect with others or to play individually without having to continually run into each other as so often happens in closed spaces. And in fact, during outdoor play, we see fewer conflicts, and children tend to cooperate more with each other during outdoor play. During outdoor play, children explore and work together to accomplish tasks. And during this cooperative play, children develop empathy as they begin to understand other people's feelings and needs. Also, the study that's cited on the screen found that adults felt more available to support children outside, where they were more relaxed and calm, which also suggests that the outdoor environment is not just a healthy environment for children, but also for adults and the interactions between children and adults. Overuse of digital media and screens may place children and teens at risk for a series of negative outcomes. Developing a family media use plan is a strategy to prevent the negative outcomes associated with overuse of digital media and screens. We'll talk about just a few of these here in depth. Excessive screen use, as well as having a TV in the bedroom, can increase the risk of obesity. And in fact, heavy media use during preschool years is linked to weight gain and a risk of childhood obesity. Media also can interfere with sleep. So exposure to blue light and stimulating content from screens can delay or disrupt sleep. Young children with more media exposure or who have a TV, computer, or mobile device in their bedroom sleep less and fall asleep later at night. And even babies can be overstimulated by screens and miss the sleep they need to grow. We also know that based on the research, some of the other negative risks or risks associated with negative outcomes include delays in learning and social skills, negative effect on school performance. It can lead to problematic internet use, risky behaviors and behavior problems, sexting, privacy concerns, and predators, as well as cyberbullying. So we want to take a moment here to ask another poll question. What percentage of Americans do you think fail to eat the recommended daily allowance of fruits and vegetables? 30%, 50%, 80%, or 95%? All right, so it looks like a majority of people are saying 80%. So we've got about a little over just about 3/4 of you who are saying 80%, and you all are very knowledgeable. That is correct. So according to the Physiology of Taste, 80% of Americans fail to eat the recommended daily allowance of fruits and vegetables. So let's go from there and move into family meals as our next strategy. Family meals that are frequent, structured, and those that establish a positive atmosphere are associated with a variety of beneficial family and child-level outcomes. For instance, family meals are an important opportunity to develop strong parent-child relationships and family connectedness. Family meals also encourage positive behavior outcomes for children and teens. So for instance, children under 13 have fewer problem behaviors overall when they have more frequent family meals. Research also shows that family meals lead to improved physical health. Eating with parents is an important positive influence on the nutrition and eating habits of adolescents. And you can see we need, as a society, Americans need help with that as a whole. So I think that would also extend to families eating healthier when they eat together. Research shows that parental presence at meals is associated with higher intake of fruits, vegetables, and dairy products, as well as a lower risk for being overweight or obese. And according to one study, adolescents, particularly girls, who reported frequent structured meals and a positive atmosphere at those meals were less likely to have eating disorders. And then finally, family meals have also been linked to improved mental health and other outcomes. Teens who regularly have meals with their families are less likely to get into fights, have suicidal thoughts, smoke, drink, and use drugs. Teens who regularly eat meals with family are also more likely to have later initiation of sexual activity and better academic performance. And finally, let's talk about the benefits of shared reading. Reading regularly with young children stimulates optimal patterns of brain development and strengthens parent-child relationships at a critical time in child development. Research shows that shared reading builds language and literacy in comparison with adult-child conversations. Adult-child shared book reading provides children with a particularly concentrated dosage of word exposure, as storybooks contain more unique words than adult talk directed at children during conversation. Shared reading can also be used to develop social emotional skills in children. For instance, the parent might ask the child, "How do you think she feels?" Or "How would you feel if that happened to you?" This allows children to think through social situations and develop empathy in children as they learn to empathize with the character in the story. And finally, shared reading strengthens the bond between parent and child, as it is a situation in which parents' undivided attention is on the child. The interactions that occur during shared reading can enhance the parent-child relationship. So those are just a few of the benefits and some of the strategies that I think have been more common during the pandemic that may be worth us embracing and holding on to once we return to or resume our new normal.
Wow, Alicia, thank you so much. That's a lot of great information, and we've got some questions already. I know, one of the things that strikes me as I think about all that great information you shared is one of our challenges as people is that a lot of that stuff I think we know. The question is, why don't we do it? I mean, even if you just take the one statistic about fruits and vegetables, and then we have the conversation about family meals and how important all of that is. What do you think it is that keeps us from just doing some of that stuff that we know we need to be doing?
Yeah, Robyn. So I think there's a lot of research that shows there's this gap between knowledge and behavior change. So we know that just knowing something is not enough for us to actually make that behavior change. And I think really what it comes down to is it's not just about knowing what we need to do. There are a lot of things in life that kind of get in the way and act as a barrier. And I think one of the biggest things for families does come down to that time constraint and the pressure to feel like we need to constantly be engaged in structured activities, that our children need to constantly be involved in different activities. And so I think sometimes reframing and recognizing the benefits, even though we often know that there are these benefits, I think really recognizing that research shows us that there are a lot of great benefits to some of these really simple strategies.
So true, so true. So one of the questions that has come in is there's a concern that schools are reopening too quickly and that things are being rushed and that schools really don't have the resources to support young people and their mental health. And what if the schools are trying to pick up the pace too fast and get kids back on track with academics? But we know that kids don't learn well under stress, and if families are feeling the stress, the community is feeling the stress, then kids are feeling the stress. So any suggestions for either resources, documentation that could be provided to a school to encourage them to do differently, or how can parents actually interact with their child's school to voice their concerns in a way that sounds appropriate?
That's an excellent question. And I think that's not necessarily a new challenge. I think sometimes the way that schools function aren't always consistent with the research. So a lot of the research on play, for instance, has documented the decrease in recess time as being really detrimental to children. And we've seen this shift in our schools to focusing on academics, which has provided less time for play. And we realize, based on the research, that play is so critically important to children's development and is actually beneficial to their academic outcomes. And so I think sometimes it is trying to provide some of that research-based information to teachers, to administrators in schools, now recognizing that even sometimes having that information, like we were just talking about, knowledge does not always equal behavior change, because schools are also feeling pressured from multiple sides that they need to respond and have the right response. And I think the reality is this is an unprecedented situation, and everyone's doing the best they can. And so I hope that schools are open to hearing concerns from parents and open to having those conversations, because I think it is important for parents to advocate on behalf of their children. We know that children who are stressed are not able to learn in optimal ways. And there's concerns about holding kids out of school and how that will stress children, and then there are concerns about sending children back to school too soon. So I think having that open conversation with teachers and with school personnel, but also with your child, and just really making the time to check in with them and do everything in your power to make sure that they're getting those opportunities to engage in free unstructured play and outdoor play, which we know helps to reduce stress and anxiety among children.
Excellent points. I would also add that when we're reaching out to schools and teachers and administrators, that we should also consider, if you are in a school district that has an elected board, reaching out to school board members, because sometimes they're influenced by their constituents in a way where they actually have the power to do something with policy, versus sometimes teachers and administrators on the ground don't necessarily have that power. Also, I love the idea of checking in with your child and knowing how your child's feeling and making it okay for them to tell you how they're feeling. Sometimes I think we unintentionally project our own anxiety, and children may or may not be feeling the same anxiety, so I think it's really key to check in. So following along with that question, there's also a question here about research related to how social distancing might impact children's social, emotional behaviors and abilities. This is new territory, so I'm curious. Are you familiar with any? What are your thoughts?
That's another really excellent question. And I am not familiar with any existing current research that talks about that because this is such a new phenomenon. And the reality is it takes some time to get research conducted, but then also to get it published. But I think there are these competing concerns of what is worse for children. Is it worse to keep them cooped up and away from their friends? And what is that going to do to their social emotional development? And how do we weigh that against the health concerns with returning to school? And so I think, unfortunately, we don't have that information at this point, or at least I'm not aware of research that addresses that specifically.
Yeah, I haven't seen any yet either, and again, it's new territory for us all, but I think that it's certainly something to consider because we know how social children are, and social distancing for children, I mean, you see them on a playground, that's going to be that's going to be a tough call. I wouldn't want to have to monitor that. So also, here's another question here. We've got, oh, and by the way, folks, if you haven't typed in your question in the Q&A pod, please feel free to do so. So we've got another comment and question here. Love the information presented and wondering how we can take this information and promote it within our communities. Will there be printed materials available in addition to the resources provided? Well, first of all, thank you for the compliment, and we will have the webinar archived on the website where you can actually share the link with friends, family, others that you would like to share it with. And there is also, the slides will be there so you can have access to those. And there are, as I mentioned before, over 3,000 research-based resources in the library, some of which touch on many of these topics that we've just covered, so that's great. Okay, and here's another one for you. Great question. I've witnessed my grandchildren as well as other children cry, scream when a device is taken away. Here's a tough one. Any tips on how to calm a child down instead of giving in to avoid the behavior, especially in public?
Excellent question. And in fact, I've had many conversations with colleagues who have slightly older children that have talked about the nightly battles to get them to do homework, right, instead of playing their video game. And so I think that's a really very relevant question. And I think, obviously, and this is not helpful for older children, the earlier that you can start with that, which is why I think the family media plan can be really helpful, and just creating that culture is obviously going to be beneficial. But I don't think it's ever too late to create kind of that new normal and establish some more structure around media use. So certainly it's probably, unfortunately, going to get harder before it gets better initially. But I think what we know from research is the most important thing is to have that connection and that strong relationship with your child. And so getting down on their level and really explaining and letting them know. Children often struggle with transition. So letting them know, okay, you're going to get 15 minutes on your device. And I'm going to set the timer depending on the age of the child. I'm going to set the timer, and when it goes off, that means the device needs to turn off. Okay, do you understand what I'm saying? And get them to say, yep, okay. And again, not that they're going to be happy when it's taken away at the end of that time, but I think the more structure and warning that you can give kids in advance that, okay, this is turning off at a certain time. There are also some technological devices that families can use that will actually shut down the internet, for instance, or shut down certain things in the home at a specific time. So if you're wanting bedtime to be, at a certain time, you can have all of the technology shut off at a certain time. However, going back to what I said earlier, recognize that if you're still on your cell phone or still on your device and your child's not, that's going to cause a lot more problems. So some of this might require us to also sacrifice and be willing to follow some of those rules and say, look, I'm not on my cell phone either. This is going to be family time. But that is definitely a challenge for a lot of families.
Yeah, excellent point. It is. I have a thing on my phone, an app that it's called Wind Down, and it will gray out everything at a certain time. You set the schedule, and at a certain time at night, it will gray everything out, and it will do not disturb until whatever the set time is in the morning. So I know that there are various apps like that that people can use. But you know, nutrition's a big thing for me, and one of the conversations that we often run into is this conversation of, well, my kids will only eat chicken nuggets. Well, but your kids didn't go buy chicken nuggets. So the reason they eat chicken nuggets is because you introduced them to chicken nuggets. So sometimes we do have to kind of take a step back on some of the choices that we've made as parents and suffer the pain slightly for the long-term benefit. So it's definitely a good point. It may be a little hard to get kids to calm down when you first take the device away, but afterwards, you know, it can actually be a good thing long-term when you're helping them develop healthier choices and healthier options. I also think that one of the beauties of attending workshops and webinars and any kind of educational opportunities is that it gives us permission to change. Opportunities like this give us an opportunity to go back to our families and say, you know, I was in this presentation today and I heard this really cool information, and there's some things I think we as a family could do different that we can practice now. So as the world reopens, we reopen in a way that is comfortable for us. I'm also seeing here that there is a free monitoring app called Custodio that sets parameters on devices. It's also free, and you can get it for one device for free, and you can pay to add on others. So that's another suggestion that might be helpful to folks who are struggling with the technology app. Also, Google Family Link is a great tool to monitor and manage screen time and bedtime on mobile devices, is another comment that I've heard. I have a friend that when we all get together for dinner, or as we used to, and I hopefully will again soon, we all had to put our cell phones in the middle of the table at dinner, and the first person to touch their phone had to pick up the check. So I think there's some creative ways that even as adults we can do better on screen time and staring at our phones, especially when we have other people right there with us that we could be spending time with. So I think we have just a couple of minutes. Alicia, I want to give you an opportunity to offer any final thoughts, and then I'll take one more question and we'll wrap things up for today.
Sure. So I think it's important for us to keep in mind, whether we're talking about ourselves and our own families or families that we're working with, that there really is no one-size-fits-all solution. And so it's really about helping families make informed decisions, and decisions that are in the best interest of their family. So, you know, as a family life educator, one of the things I always strive to do is this is what we know based on the research, and equipping families with that knowledge, and then really helping them to discern how they apply that knowledge in a way that is going to best suit their family. So I think it's important for us to recognize that what may work for one family may not work for our family, or what works for our family may not work for the families that we're serving. And so just being really aware that we have some research to guide best practices and strategies that we can use, but also recognizing that it's going to look different in every family.
Excellent point. One size fits all does not fit all. Excellent point. So I have one more question for everyone. I would like to hear from you. What's one takeaway from today's session? And you'll have an opportunity just to type it in the box. But what's one thing that you heard today that you might want to go back and do different with your family? We'd love to hear it. I'm seeing family meal, the 5 strategies. Already shared them on social media. Awesome, thank you. Share family dinner time. Reaffirm commitment. Love the reminder to engage in unstructured play. Wow, lots of cool stuff. Trying to have at least 20-minute dinner and conversation. Reading, longer family meals, more time. Oh, I love this one. My takeaway is I'm not doing as bad as I feel like I am most of the time. I want to work on disconnecting from my device and do more family meals. That's always nice when we feel affirmed, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Loved your comment, gap between knowledge and behavior. Awesome. Okay, folks. Well, as we wrap up for today, thank you again so much for joining us. And I am going to challenge you to go out and do whatever that one thing is that you said you wanted to do. And look forward to hearing more in the future from all of you. And I'm going to turn everyone over to Brianna to wrap things up for us today. Thank you to all of our speakers, Millicent, Alicia. Thank you so much. Wonderful presentation. Here's all of our contact information. We'd love to hear from any of you. And again, follow up with the Resource Center if you have questions or you're looking for resources that you haven't found. Be sure to check out the web links to strengthen your relationship, the family media plan that Alicia mentioned, and the activity book for children, a great conversation starter as you work to create a new normal for you and your families. Stay safe, everyone, and thank you.
Thanks, Robyn. Yeah, as you can see, the contact information for the Resource Center is here on the screen. We want to thank you again for joining. When I close out the meeting, it will close out in your browser, and then it will actually open a quick survey. It probably takes 30 seconds to a minute, and then after that, you will be redirected to get a certificate of participation. So we hope that you take the chance to be able to do that, and hope you have a great day. I will close it out now. Thank you so much.